So guys, if you haven't seen the previous video on this, please watch it here. This is a continuation on that. So very brief summary of what we talked about previous video. The higher levels of your brain, aka the smart human parts of your brain, are split up into two lobes, two hemispheres. Now, the two hemispheres, of course, work together, but they also have tasks and functions that they are slightly better at compared to the other hemisphere. So what we don't want to do is think, okay, one side of the brain's only responsible for something. I think that's been disproven by science, but I think science can back up that some parts of the brain are slightly better or favor certain things. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. So what is the left side of the brain, the right side of the brain? What do they like doing or prefer doing or slightly better at doing? Before we even do that, the left side of your brain controls the right side of your body. The right side of the brain controls the left side of your body. I forgot what that's called, but there's a scientific word for that. We don't need to worry about that. The left side of your brain usually is the side of your brain that we consider the logical, the side that categorizes. The verbal areas are more on the left side of your brain. So naming, categorization, logical step-by-step things tends to be a little preferred on the left side of the brain. The right side is often called the artistic brain. Music, abstract thinking, how things just come together, vibes, the whole. Some people call it the gestalt. That's tends to be on the right side, or the right side prefers it, is slightly better at it. Notice I'm very careful with my wording, right? So today we're going to continue looking at this book that I've been reading, and I'll show you some examples that illustrate good left side thinking, bad left side thinking, good left side learning, bad left side learning, good right side learning, bad right side learning. And we will continue this journey, figuring out how we can learn better, how we can communicate better, how we can, in general, hack both sides of our brain to not to let one side dominate too much over the other. And guys, if you haven't watched that previous video, please check it out. It's in the little card right here. And before I even continue, let's give a shout out to my neighbors Denny and Kimberly. They've been very inspirational to me, and they actually saw me mentally burned out last year in December, and they are definitely going to be a big part of my life because they have gone this path before me, this artistic path, and I'm sure I will learn so much from them. So shout out to them. I'm going to send them this video. So let's go ahead and explore. So guys, again, don't get intimidated by this. The point is not to try to understand this. The point is to use this to show what ineffective attempts at using your left brain do. So this is called two-point perspective. It's trying to show you how proportions work when there's two vanishing points. Again, none of that really matters for a case study, but in case you are an artist or you've studied this stuff, this is what it's trying to do. But what I want to show you is, look at those words, those phrases: eye level line, height line of figures, baseline of buildings. What do you think this does automatically? This automatically gets you into left brain thinking, left brain verbal, categorizing, naming. So as we know, the artistic side of the brain tends to favor the right part. So if you start learning and automatically start using labels and things like that, it automatically gets your brain to shift over to favor, to dominate with the left side. And then to attempt to remedy that, look what the author does here. The author starts using abbreviations, and that even more uses your left side of your brain. So I don't know if this type of instruction is helpful or it actually confuses more. For those of you looking at this, what does it do? I think it overwhelms. And what will we define as overwhelming? Probably it's doing something where the brain, especially the corpus callosum, that area of the brain that tries to get the two sides to communicate, maybe it's not working properly because there's some kind of incongruity with this type of instruction. So to further illustrate how it's ineffective, The author of this poses a question. What if you wanted to take this figure here and draw how he would look like here? The issue with this type of categorization, this type of case-by-case type of study, is that it's very hard to transfer this to here. I'm trying to point when the screen is mirrored, when you've very segmented and sectionalized the learning through your left brain. So the author tries to now show it visually in a right brain way. Hey, look, you can just sort of shift it this way. But since you haven't really understood from your right brain how this all comes together, right? The abstract, how it all comes together. When I got to this page, all it did was, I kind of see it, but I don't really know if I see it. So this is an example of trying to use the left brain when, honestly, you probably could have taken this approach, but started out from an easier visual way that didn't involve verbal/categories, and you probably could have taught this. So I was thinking about what they could have done. I think very easily, if they just didn't show any of these words, and this would be the second photo. Maybe the first photo, what you do is you show the vanishing points. So you zoom out, you show the vanishing points on both sides. So your right brain can see this is sort of the whole, this is the abstract, and then you zoom in and don't show any of this text, but then you zoom in to say, oh, so that derives in an abstract way from the zoomed out view. I don't have the full answer. This is what I'm thinking based on how it initially just jumbled my brain up. So then we have this little part. So this is talking about if you apply perspective, you also can help your drawings by not crowding. So this is an example of crowding. And then it shifts to a non-shaded view to show you how it's crowding itself and not taking into account perspective. So then it shows you what take into account perspective would look like. And then it just stops there. So it starts out giving you the whole holistic view, the whole, right? The entire thing. And then it kind of leaves you hanging. It leaves you hanging. So shouldn't you, once you correct that previous, correct is subjective, but let's just use that for now. Once you correct the previous example, shouldn't you show this now with its shaded view too? So this is one of those, it sort of takes a right brain approach, but it doesn't finish it. So your right brain doesn't see the whole gestalt. It doesn't see the whole. And not to criticize this book completely, there's some really, really good examples. So maybe I actually will start out with a good example before I show another bad example, because it feels like I'm only showing bad examples. So this is a very effective way of using right brain thinking. It tells you to imagine a box. You cut the box open, and then you can look through the box from different angles, from different levels of zoom, and you can kind of see perspective this way. I think this is a very effective right brain way of seeing perspective, especially trying to teach 2-point perspective. So that was a very, very good part of the book, and I wanted to give it credit. That was taking a right brain approach and taking it correctly. Correctly is subjective, but taking it in a way that at least I could understand. So now let's go to the final part. This is an example of right brain thinking, right brain learning not used effectively. Yes, it's not just left brain. Sometimes trying to reach the right brain incorrectly is equally, if not more, unproductive. So this is taking what it's built on already, the 2-point perspective, eye line, all those labels, and now it gives something called the center of interest. So it's trying to explain the center of interest in a very right brain way. It's trying to say, oh, look, if you look at it from a certain angle, you'll get it, so to speak. And I don't know about you, but for anyone that's taking photography classes or taking drawing classes, you know that there's certain people who are just born a certain way and they can just make a shot or a photo or a drawing pretty. Just the way, I don't know if their right brain just naturally had certain pathways that they developed as a kid or something, but naturally they can just put things in places to make it look really good. Now, some people like me had to learn it, right? You can't just say you're going to see it one day. You had to learn it, and the way to learn it was very left brain. So before I explain to you guys how I learned it and how a lot of my friends learned it, let's look at this again. So you could try to use a right brain mentality and try to see it based on certain things you built already. But I will guarantee you, if I don't explain this from a left brain way, it's going to be hard for you to see this if you're not already seeing this. So what's the concept we're going to look at now? This is a concept called the rule of thirds. I'm sure a lot of you have heard this. This is based off what's called the golden ratio. None of those labels matter. You don't have to worry about all that. I'm just giving you things to look up if you want to look it up more. The way to think about it is, if you look at my screen, you can break it up into 9 equally sized rectangles. And you can place whatever based on those 9 equal sized rectangles. So that's the first step, is how you break up any type of frame, any type of picture, any type of video, any type of 2D surface. You can break it up into 9 equal sized rectangles. Now the second step is, based on where you put your subject, whatever that's in this frame, based on those 9 equal sized rectangles, you will cause different levels of aesthetic enjoyment, different emotional vibes, so to speak. As you can tell, I'm explaining this in a very right brain way. You can totally draw diagrams and use math and explain this in a very left brain way, but as you guys know, if you've seen my previous videos, I'm really thinking about ways to be more right-brained in 2023. So, once you know that about the rule of thirds, the third part is the edges, especially the corners in between the equal-sized rectangles, are some of the most visually appealing places to put an image. Or not just an image, but what you want to stand out in the image. So, if you extrapolate from what I just told you, I think the center of interest concept will very, very make sense for you. And notice what I did there. I used the left brain concept to take the lead, but once you see it, once you can take this left brain concept to see it, you don't need to use it anymore. You've unlocked something in the right brain that if you continued using right brain concepts, you wouldn't be able to do as easily. For example, I don't think rule of thirds all the time. I don't think, okay, break this up into 9 squares or 9 rectangles of equal sizes, and then, okay, where is the edge? Where's the corner? Okay, how many rectangles is this taken up? What portion of this picture frame? I don't think like that. But sometimes you need to just give the left brain a little bit of a kick, and then the right brain can take over, and they can work together. So that's what it shows here. So apply the rule of thirds here. First, break that picture right here. Break it down into vertically. Break it down into 3 equal rectangles. So here and here. So first see that. Then break it down horizontally into 3 equal long rectangles. And if you combine the vertical and the horizontal, you get 9. So now think about where things are placed here. Think about the bottom horizontal third, the middle horizontal third, the top horizontal third. Think about the left or the right, depending on how you're looking at this, vertical third, the middle vertical third, and then the other side vertical third, and then think about what I told you about the edges, and think about where things are placed. I hope, just by this little bit of hacking with the left brain, you will never see pictures, you will never see the world the same again. Notice where my face is. Notice where the eyes are, right? What if I go like this? What does this do? Break it down from the rule of thirds. And now you can watch movies, you can watch TV shows. You can see how the camera people, how they frame things. And I will guarantee you this will change how you see things. So what I just gave to you guys, a left brain way that will very easily get the right brain also to combine. Was that easier than if you use this center of interest derived from the vanishing points way? Two right brain, man. I don't think, if you didn't know the rule of thirds and you were trying to see what he was trying to say just through a very right brain abstract way, I don't think you'll ever be able to see it as quickly. I'm not saying you can't see it or you won't see it, but the way I did it, it was a very easy verbal / mathematical hack that once you get it, you don't need it anymore. And isn't that the point of learning? You know, there's something to be said about learning the hard way, but sometimes we want to learn in a way that's the most efficient, and then we can apply it the most. So this is it. As you can tell, once I tell my mind I'm going to think a certain way, the mind just goes. And this is going to be a big part of this year, is exploring different ways that our left and right brains can work together better. And this reminds me, I'll give one last segue. Plato wrote that very famous book, The Republic. And from what one professor told me back in the day, even though Plato was trying to explore society, he was using society as a way to actually look inwards and explore how the human, the person, the individual can function at his best. So in a way, I'm using this left and right brain paradigm to hopefully help people extrapolate to society. What are ways that once you kind of understand more about your own body and especially the mind and how it can become segmented, how can you apply that to society and think about ways that society is not functioning correctly or too segmented or too polarized, and how can you bring it back in a more efficient / working together way. So that's it. It's a little bit cloudy here, so if there was a little bit of a camera frame rate issue, I apologize. But let me know what you guys think. And I think I'm getting a lot of enjoyment on this channel that I probably lost since 2019. So we might post a lot on this channel if I can talk to you guys about these concepts that I'm thinking about. Now, if you want to check out this book, again, I will guarantee you this book is life-changing, but it's also frustrating. But I think good books are always like that. I will put this in the description. So if you want to buy this book, I have a little Amazon list that you can buy this from. Thank you guys so much. And shout out again to my neighbors Denny and Kimberly. To everyone else, talk to you soon.